Hello everyone, here's an updated OP build for Harlowe in Borderlands 4 using one of the new weapons that was added with the Bounty Pack 1 with the Rowdy Rider here, which is a cryo damage assault rifle, which can be pretty powerful if we utilize a specific build. Now we can also get infinite ordinances with this, so this is really fun if you enjoy using some of the more heavy weapons in the game, as we can replenish our own ammunition and get infinite amounts of critical hits, so it is pretty crazy overall. The new Rowdy Rider is really good for mobbing because whenever you get a critical hit, it'll give +2 ricochet projectiles. And within our green skill tree here, if we use Nuclear Winter with the group study, we're able to get infinite ammo because we're going to be doing critical hits after every action skill damage, which turns our gun damage into action skill, so infinite critical hits through that. And then this will replenish 5 ammunition, 15% chance on shot, but you saw there, it triggers really quickly. And then with Decoherence, we get a huge bonus damage on top of all the normal damage we'll be dealing, so we are going to take down bosses really easily in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 and the new Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 coming. Now starting off from level 1, momentum really shifts the momentum in our way, so whenever we entangle enemies, which is often, we get increasing critical hit damage. It's really good. Now next level, we'll be taking Neutron Decay, so whenever you irradiate an enemy, we'll gain increased gun damage. This is 10% per stack, 5 stacks, 50% extra gun damage, and you can actually take this even further. There's also a legendary class mod that'll irradiate enemies anytime you shock them, so this can open up different weapons for us to use. Now, once we get down here, there's a couple choices. Creative Overflow will give you increased gun damage 36% based on our overshield, so if you're using a shield like the Watch for Dinner or anything that gives you overshield, that's really great. However, we can also take the Resonance Cascade, so whenever we deal radiation damage to an enemy, we get increased action skill damage. This is 9% per stack, and this is 5 stacks, so yeah, that's pretty good. We're going to get increased action skill damage off our Flux Generator there. We're then going to take 1 point of Informative Reality. I sometimes take 2, but honestly, 1 is all you need. Whenever you shoot an entangled enemy, you get an action skill cooldown. This applies to our teammates as well. It's extremely powerful. We'll then put 1 point into Creative Overflow just for that extra bit of damage. Now, at this point, I think it's best to go down and take, so we need to take the Nuclear Winter. This is our best augment for the build. This will give us, whenever we're inside our Flux Generator, bonus cryo damage. And whenever we leave it, we get bonus radiation damage for duration. And this is counted as action skill damage. So we also can entangle enemies whenever we do cryo or radiation status effects, which is going to be often. We're basically going to be often entangling enemies. It's pretty crazy. We're then going to go with the Excited State. Now, you can do 1 point here. We just need at least 1 point because this is going to trigger the action skills to become, after action skill damage, critical hits are automatic, which is then going to make every single bullet shot a critical hit when we have these two combined. I like the Refraction. This will give us ricochet chance and doubled against entangled enemies. This can be really good for mobbing, but for bossing, an Excited State's a little better. Getting more critical hit damage is always nice. Now, at this point, I like to take 1 point of Accretion. This will give you lifesteal against entangled enemies. You don't really need more than 1 point because it only applies to your health bar and not to your shields. Just be mindful of that. Vex has different builds that do that, but this one doesn't. We're then going to take the rest of the points in distributive function. So whenever our action skill damages an enemy, restore a portion of our shield capacity. If our shields are full, gain overshield instead. And this is our action skill damage, so we can get this being pretty useful, actually. This leads us down to group study. So this will give us basically our action skill follows us around, so we're always going to get that bonus cryo damage. But what's nice about this is it gives us increased gun damage for activation. You can keep activating it to keep buffing up our damage. But every time that we activate it, it increases the rate that it goes down. After this, it's nice to take Decoherence, but I think at this point, we want to be able to get infinite ammo, so we're going to take you can take Gamma Ray Burst here. This will give us a huge burst damage, but it drains our shields really quickly, so that's something to keep in mind. I like the Harlow's Certainty Principle, getting increased gun handling 50%, which is huge. It gives us a much better aim, and this is increased when every enemy in our Flux Generator. It's pretty nice. We'll then take Critical Funding all the way up. The Jaunt is not good. This gives us 5 ammo added on a critical hit with a 15% chance, so we're honestly going to be getting back our ammo, as you saw at the start, pretty fast. If it dips down, it'll dip right back up. And since we're getting critical hits, we may as well take Meltdown. So critical hits with guns deal bonus radiation damage. We'll take 5 points next. 40% damage dealt, turning into radiation damage is crazy when you consider that we can actually stack up a lot of our procs with this. And bonus damage is just so good in Borderlands. We'll then take Decoherence. Now, I have a class mod every 4 points. 5 would be ideal. I don't really have the best class mod, but I'm grinding for one and it took forever to get. So yeah, with this one, we're getting increased at level 5, we only get an increase of 25% bonus damage, but that's huge because we're always going to entangle enemies, so we always want this active. You can potentially get that up to 50% and additional bonus of 30% when you're in the Flux Generator. And since our Flux Generator follows us, we're going to be doing that if we're in close range with shotguns and things like that. And at this point, I think the best choice is to take Laden Charge. This will give us bonus damage with guns, melee attacks, and action skills when we have Overshield. And we're going to get Overshield from our distributive function and some other abilities here. So that gives us 40% of our damage dealt, bonus damage. So that rounds out the entire skill tree there. And yeah, if you can get an extra point of Decoherence, that's huge. This pairs really well with the reactor class mod can roll with the +5 to decoherence. Whenever we entangle an enemy, we get +2 to movement speed, and then once we get to 10, we get +20 gun damage, fire rate, reload speed, and status effect duration for 12 seconds. This comes with a status effect application chance boost. It's not really the best roll. You could also use something like the radiologist class mod. There are some other ones that roll with the decoherence, so you can grab those instead. The Scientist is another good one. So whenever you shock an enemy, you irradiate and entangle the enemy, and electric arcs will hop around enemy to enemy. This one is really powerful offensively, but you lose it on decoherence stack. So it's your choice. If you get one of these, it's good too. The Skeptic's also good too, because this can give you some skilled points that you're not normally able to, and it gives you your action skill back immediately. But we also have the green skill tree to be able to do that for us. Into our shield, I like the Watch for Dinner for extra shock damage. That procs the Scientist class mod if you take it, and you can get an amp. This one has 28% of our shields for 100% gun damage. You can get one that's 35% of shields for 150% gun damage. That's a little bit better. Cinder Shelly, nice for defensive purposes. Fireworks if you're mobbing. Timekeeper's new shield if you want to spec further into lifesteal. That could be a fun choice. I also really like the Super Soldier. It's never a bad idea to have that on for the ammo regeneration. And then we're going to go with the Vladoff increased shots is always nice on the Wombo combo. This one's a pretty fun one to roll with. Let's get this one here with dataless parts. We'll get increased chance to refill ammunition, which is crazy. And this one gives us increased gun damage, which is nice, and shotgun magazine size, so the bod can go crazy on this build. Absolutely absurd. And then we also have the Atling gun. That's what you saw there at the start. It's a very powerful weapon. The waterfall grenades grade 2 or the vivisecting critical hit knife if you wanted to roll with that. I like the triple bypass with the amp for the plus 200% damage as well. And you could also get this to proc the now with caffeine specialization, which we'll get to in a minute. Into weapons, the Rowdy Rider, as mentioned, is a good one. This is best for mobbing. It's like the Bonnie and Clyde, which I really enjoy, but the damage is much lower than Bonnie and Clyde. When you get it, inspect it to make sure that you do have an increased critical hit damage, because you can get one that looks like it has higher damage, and you may be like, oh, higher DPS is better, but it'll have a minus 55% critical hit damage, which is obviously bad when every single bullet of ours is a critical hit. So just because the DPS number is lower doesn't mean that it is worse. It could be better. You do have to inspect them. There's some guns that will actually have a really high critical hit boost and some that don't as well. So for example, the Stray here has an 83% critical hit boost. So yeah, you're going to want to check these in certain builds since we are going to be getting critical hits often. If you're going against vile enemies, there's nothing better than the Wombo combo. We also have the Stray, which is just kind of like, I call this the dad gamer. You can just fire this gun off because it'll auto aim. So you can just play casually with this weapon. The ceramic bod, especially if you get a radiation one, is going to be the absolute best weapon for this, because with torque stickies, every one that you land on the enemy, it shoots 5 of them. So that's 15% increased damage scaling per shot. We get infinite ammo, so we don't have to reload. You can one-shot pretty much anything in the game in this, and I'm sure it's going to happen with the future bosses in the releases in December. And as mentioned, for the specialization, it's good to go with the now with caffeine, but we also, I guess, get our action skill back immediately, so we don't have to even take that. You can take I'm a gun to give action skill damage to it, and then also critical hit chance. But that's not always going to be the best choice. I like the defense one here to get 30% extra damage, and really use this to add extra gun damage. So if you don't want to grab the Hone Mind to have the critical hit chance, you can throw in Bullet Train to increase your movement speed while walking, which is pretty fun. And Full Spectrum Arsenal can be fun if you want to use your Ordnance a little bit more, because we can replenish it. This will get 50% of our gun damage boost to it as well, so that can be pretty useful. This build really excels whenever there's multiple enemies around, because the +2 ricochets off of the Rowdy Rider is pretty nice. You can see there, you literally just mow through any enemy here. The damage potential is pretty great. It isn't a fantastic high damage against harder bosses, but that's exactly what the bot is for. Honestly, the bot is just so good. This is meant more so for mobbing. So if you're getting jumped by multiple enemies, this is good. It also has a pretty big kickback as well. As you can see there, you're knocking enemies around. The big thing though is whenever we can get the critical hits off with this, so that is obviously a huge boost to the overall damage. We're good at entangling enemies too, so that's something to keep in mind. There we go, we're actually getting it off. The critical hits, being able to chain them so many enemies at a time, is actually pretty ridiculous. So this is going to be a very powerful mobbing weapon in a lot of different content, because we're adding so much extra bonus damage, but this is getting applied to multiple enemies at a time. It's great for Ripper drill sites, because you can see here, the bullets, you can literally see them chaining around to multiple enemies at a time. Getting those infinite crits off is pretty exciting. And again, bot is there for any of the harder bosses, but being able to hit like 4 enemies at a time with a weapon and apply shocks, as well as acid or the radiation damage over time, is pretty crazy. The gun itself being pretty powerful, knocking enemies down like that is also quite fun. We get our action skill back immediately though, as you see, because when we shoot any type of enemy that has that rainbow glow there, we're going to get our action skill back and then continue to get those critical hits that bounce around to multiple enemies. This gun is great too, because it's going to make it so that people freeze and slow down. And yeah, you see we're literally tearing straight through them. And then when a heavier boss type enemy comes out, we got our Atling gun there just to be able to shred through them. Although it won't chain around, you just gotta be mindful it's more so for like a single target damage. It's really fun though. And then we can always just activate our action seal again a second time if we wanted to. We can see here with our chaining bullets, we're actually getting our action seal back pretty quickly. It just takes a few seconds of shooting and then we'll have it back there. And boom, you're just gonna again have your action skill up. You can pop it again there for that addition. It gives you an additional 25% gun damage whenever you do that, so it can be good. The great thing about this weapon is if there's a large enemy, just aim for them and it basically just allows it to chain off and hit multiple enemies at a time. You don't have to worry too much, so just pick the biggest target, the easiest one, because it's gonna be a critical hit no matter what. And you can see there just the damage potential is pretty crazy when you get it rolling. So yeah, that is a very powerful new build for Harlowe in Borderlands 4. As I'll mention it again, if there's a boss, the bod is going to be your best choice. Infinite critical hits with the bod, it'll shred any heavy boss enemy down, as it will scale up the damage quite high. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.